Hello there. I'm Scotty, and you're not. And it's time to finish off the Candyman franchise with Candyman Day of the Dead. Look at that slipcover. It's a nice slip. Look at that. Isn't that nice? So going into this, it's very interesting that they show this because it's not in the movie. We'll get to it. So going into this, I have of course heard this movie is shit. It sucks. It's terrible. And I thought it was okay. I thought, for the most part, the acting performances were serviceable. There was between the Donna D'Errico and Nick Corey, I thought they did fine, except for one scene in which Donna D'Errico has to scream about, you took that doesn't come out. And I thought Tony Todd actually did a pretty good job. There were ones for me anyway that come off as if he was just doing this for a paycheck. He actually felt like he gave a good performance. But there's timeline confusion, over reliance on CGI, too many fucking jump scares. It's a mess. It's a mess, but I didn't mind it. I don't hate any of these movies. I didn't hate this movie. Everybody hates on this movie. They say this is a piece of shit. This sucks. No. I thought it was okay. So the story is we follow Caroline, the daughter of Annie from the last film. And here's where we run into our first problem. She's played by a then 30-year-old Donna D'Errico. Which means that, well, let's try to do the math here. Now, so if we're going by how old the actress is, the character would have had to have been born in 1996-ish, I would say. Depending on how late. Let's see, it was April, right? It was April. So he's conceived in April. So May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January. Around January-ish of 1996 is when she would have been born. So, then that was the case. Then, the time that this movie takes place, and the year this movie takes place, in the year 2024. But, from what I hear, it's 25 years after the second film, so that would make it 2030, and she would be 28 years old. No, she would be 24 years old, and it would be 2020, is what I meant. Either way you try to look at it, it's a headache to try to think. And like I said, you have Donna D'Errico playing Caroline, and you could tell her from the beginning that they don't care about, like the first two, telling the story of Candyman and doing things, putting a big story around it. What's the first shot of this movie? Donna D'Errico in her underwear with a tight shirt on that shows the nipples. Donna D'Errico wears a tank top throughout the entire film that has her nipples going, hello, throughout the entire movie. You think they cared about telling a story? No, they got the chick from Baywatch to poke out some nipple. If you don't believe me, the first two films barely showed nudity, I think. I don't remember there being much in the first one or the second one, but there's nudity in this. They show a flashback of Daniel Robitaille and his, the person Caroline that he had an affair with, and she, like he's painting her, and she's naked, even though the pictures we see, she's got a dress on, but she's like naked, and then they lay together. We also find out that Annie's mother supposedly committed suicide, or Annie's mother, Annie committed suicide, supposedly. Found out later it was the Candyman who killed her, which I have a problem with. They say that Annie was living in constant fear of the Candyman since then. Wow. Let's just fucking retcon everything, right? They said it in the last one that you destroy the mirror, you destroy the Candyman. How is she still living in fear? Yes, you could point to the end of the second one. Oh, well, she wouldn't let Caroline say his name 5 times. She still believed. It's a, it's, being cautious. You don't know. But to say that she lived in fear of the Candyman, and I have a problem. The flashback shows Annie with an adult Caroline, so it wasn't that far along. Problem is that they didn't try to get an actress to fit the age. They got an actress that was close to the age of the actress in 1995. In fact, she looks a little bit younger, to me anyway. But, yeah, I don't know. It's very weird. Very weird to me. But yeah, so Caroline is known as the great great granddaughter of Daniel Robitaille, which makes it even more awkward when later in the film she's having supposedly now. I don't know if this actually happened because we see that she's sort of getting ready to have sex with David. That's Nick Corey's character, or Jesu Garcia, whatever you want to call him by his character, and all of a sudden he turns into the Candyman. And he's like rubbing his chin on her, and I'm like, dude, that's your great great granddaughter, man. Don't be doing that shit. That ain't right. Shit ain't right. Then he's like, I took him. I'm like, when? When did you take him? Like, just then? Like, that's something. You're in the middle of going down on a girl, and then woof, you're hanging up in a warehouse somewhere. How does that shit work? There's also these two racist cops who are on the job. One of them is named Kraft, and he's sort of the human antagonistic character. He's trying to investigate. Excuse me. So it all starts when Caroline, whose name is Caroline McKeever, and again, this because I looked it up, so I wouldn't be like an idiot. No, I'm an idiot. But, so I'm like, Caroline McKeever, because when she's interviewed, like, Miss McKeever, I'm like, no, her last name should be Tarrant, right? Because that's what Annie's last name was. They fucked up. She's not married. Well, I looked it up before I could. So, I'm going to look it up. Yeah, her father, Paul, the husband that died, that was his last name. So she gave Caroline her husband's last name, which makes sense. It makes sense, I don't know. I just thought it would be Torrent or Torrent, whatever. But I guess having your dad's last name makes sense. I have my dad's last name, so yeah. Yeah, and the police revealed that the same night that Miguel, the owner of the art museum, was killed, all the paintings that were at the art museum were taken. And they believe the same people are involved, although Caroline, forgot her name for a second, Caroline somehow has a vision of Miguel and his girlfriend getting murdered. She points out David because he was causing problems that day, even though she knows he was an actor and was friends with Miguel, but she points him out and know the cops are after him. Nick Corey in a horror movie where he's being accused of murder. Where have I heard of that before? But yeah. So yeah, he's being chased down by the cops. Of course. There's a scene that's very stupid. I rolled my eyes at it. So she's on her way home. First of all, she goes to the subway and she sees the Candyman. She passes out. When she wakes up, she's in front of Miguel's house. She finally goes home after talking to the police, and she hears her roommate screaming. The screaming causes her to drop her keys behind this little grate, and her roommate is screaming, and she keeps trying to get the keys. And I'm sitting there going, bitch, break down the door. Worry about the keys later. If your roommate is in trouble, break down the door. You can fix the door later. You can worry about the keys later. You don't need to have your keys to get into your apartment. I'm just saying. And a day. If your roommate is there screaming, there's a good chance it's unlocked. Day. But she does finally get in there to find out that it was just her roommate practicing for a role in a play or something, or a TV show or something like that. I don't know. Doesn't matter because she isn't dead anyway. Uh, so yes, so they need to figure out exactly what's going on and how to stop the Candyman. And it's a good thing. I noticed this. It's a good thing that you can only summon Candyman by saying his name 5 times in front of a mirror, because the amount of time they actually say the Candyman in this, he would have showed up. Also saying I don't believe in him, that's another thing that he shows up and kills people for. But they go to see David's abuela, and they find out that David has a daughter, which doesn't really do anything other than to show you he has a daughter, probably not committing the murders. We already know he's not, so I don't know. Maybe to show her, but abuela tells her that bad cannot exist without good, which is confusing. And later we find out that the paintings are the symbol of his good side. So if you destroy the paintings, then you destroy him, which to me does not make sense because that's his good side. You destroy the paintings, then there will be nothing good left of him. But the logic of this movie, sure, go ahead. But the paintings have been stolen. Oh no! And David has been taken by this point. Oh no! And the cops think she killed her roommate. Oh no! And now the Candyman showed up and killed Kraft's partner. Oh no! So now Kraft is chasing after her. Oh no! But he's also been let go from the force. Oh no! So yeah, they go to the Day of Dead Festival because that's the name of the movie. And there's a chase through there, and she is able to escape, and she makes contact with Tino, I think his name is, who they met earlier in the film. Says this guy is one of the gang that took the pictures, and that weird things been happening since they got it. So, but it's a trap. So she gets there, and she's knocked out. And it's a Candyman worshipping gang. They summon Candyman, and he shows up and massacres them. Off screen. The entire massacre is off fucking screen. All we see is her reactions to it. Why include it in the movie if you can't afford to film it? What? I imagine it's something like this, but we don't see nothing like that because he massacres them off screen and he steals the paintings. And she somehow knows where he's going. So she goes there. And, David is hanging up there. She saves David. And then after a few tries of trying to get up the little hill to destroy them, she destroys the paintings, which destroys him. And we only final shot of her with David and his daughter next to her mother's grave, and yeah, movie ends. Wait, there's one more thing I forgot, because after this is done, Kraft shows up. That's right, Kraft shows up. And he has the hook in his hand because she brought it there. And he's gone nuts by this point, chasing after her, being kicked out of the forest, lost his job. He's all nuts. And she says it was the Candyman, to which he says, I am the Candyman. Conveniently, the other cop, the two other cops that were also on the case, this African-American guy shows up and shoots him. So he heard him say, I am the Candyman. And then Caroline says it was him. And then we have a press conference in which he blames the entire murders of the Candyman murders on Kraft. Now, I've watched other people's reviews, and they seem to believe that by the Candyman murders, that it's all of the murders since the first film. I don't think that's what they're implying here. I think, because that would be too much of a headache to try to think of, I think what they're implying is that the current murders started with Miguel and ending with, I don't know, the roommate, his partner, I guess. What are the Candyman murders they're talking about? I don't think you're talking about everything with Helen 26 years earlier, or 27 years earlier, 3 years, 28 years earlier. And then everything with Annie 25 years prior. And this. No, that'd be too much of a fucking headache. Besides, Kraft isn't that old. So, I think they're just talking about these murders. Not the previous films. These. Although, I would say that it does sort of make sense that they were calling Helen Lyle the murderer in the last one. But yet, Trevor died after she died. So how could she have murdered him if it was Kraft, who by that point probably would have been like, I don't know, teenager? I don't know, it doesn't make any sense. So I'm assuming they just mean the murders in this movie. So to kind of make more sense of it. It makes more sense if you just think of it that way. And it also makes more sense than in other movies that's done it. You know? Boogeyman 3 with Sarah. I believe her name is Sarah. I don't care. Saying she did it, and then the boogeyman killing her anyway. What's the point of her saying it? She said it so that no one believed the boogeyman was real, and then she gets killed anyway. This movie did it better. Yeah, Candyman Day of the Dead did better than Boogeyman 3, but I'm just saying. But I thought it was okay. Nothing to hum about. If anything, I'm going to give it not worth your time. I don't hate it. I don't think it's terrible. Would I watch it again? Maybe if I'm trying to marathon all the movies back to back. Other than that, if I'm going to pick a Candyman movie, it's going to be the first one, or the new one, or even the second one before this. But, yeah, it's not worth your time, just simply. So, that includes that. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Candyman Day of the Dead. Next, we are going to break away from the horror genre for a little bit for 3 movies. 3 movies. They're not all in the same franchise, but I'm going to kind of try to do 3 that aren't horror. But the first up is a comedy movie, a sequel to a comedy movie from 20 years before it came out, starring 2 SNL veterans, one of which has passed on by the time this film has come out. They make music, they make you laugh, and this film, I believe, is underrated. I'm going to get a lot of hate for this when I do the review for this movie, but I like this movie. I'm not going to say what it is yet, but it's a hint. Yeah. So, thank you for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.